So, I'm back from the local hardware store. I had to go and pick up some bits for outside of the house, and while I was there, I could not be not tempted to take the opportunity to buy stuff for the layout. So, I came away with 5 square meters of 5mm thick floor underlay for the base, and there's more than enough to do this layout, the additional bits of shelf I need, and any little bumps and bits that I plan to do along the way. So that will be the next job. And also, the original idea was to use cork, 3mm cork bed as the base for branch lines and main lines. But cork is expensive. And while I was there, I discovered this. It's sold as acoustic foam padding for underfloors, for door seals, for tile work. I'm not particularly sure exactly what, because my Slovak language is terrible. However, I understood the word acoustic, and I understood the words, the symbols for 3mm thick, and 65mm wide, and 30 meters long. This is only a 2 and a bit meter section, so one strip of this will be fine. It's at the right thickness that I can take a piece of bullhead track, stick it in the middle, and have plenty of width on either side to do any carving I need for ballast shoulders, etc. So I'm going to give this a try. I have a test board that I'm going to do all of my testing and everything on, and that's what we're going to do. So, first task, clean this up. I'll see you in a minute. So, I've got all of the panels down on the left and centre baseboards, as they are at the right height. So I will get to the process of gluing those down soon. However, instead of doing an overview of me doing it for the entire layout and doing a time lapse, I'm also using this piece of plywood as a test bed for control, automation, and so on. Just a simple point with two sidings and a main point. It'll be a little bit bigger, the track will come a bit further out, and so on. But the principle is for me to use this as a test bed before I put it on here. So, what I want to do is first, using a very, very brittle brush, go around all of this, and scratch up the surface a bit. Scratch it up a bit, create rough edges so that the glue has more to adhere to. It's probably not the best tool, but it's the tool I have at the moment. Otherwise, I'm just using heavy grit sanding paper, and I'm just going to take away the surface rather than just scoring it. So, a little bit of scoring. It doesn't need to be perfect. This does show some glue thing. However, I have emptied it and I have filled it with my own PVA solution. I know you could use cork or some other products, but I want to try this, because if this doesn't work on the test piece, then I will go and get something else for the main layout, and I will try another test piece, and so on and so forth. So give me 2 secs, I'm going to cut out a section of this to stick on this, and we'll be back. So, I've roughly cut out a section of foam to go onto this plywood, which is the same thickness of plywood as the baseboard. The edges are rough, but that doesn't really matter because we're just testing principle. This board is not supposed to look good. I mean, if it turns out to be a cool diorama, then great, but this is just for test purposes. So, we have roughed up this side. This side is now striated with some straight lines down the bottom. So we are going to get ourselves some glue. Technical difficulties. we go. It seems we have more technical difficulties. Please, mate. Please wait. So there we are, a slight lathering / sprinkling of glue, and we're just going to go ahead and try and evenly spread it out across the whole thing. Now it's very possible that this is supposed to be put on thicker, however I'm not too fussed because this isn't going to be on layout, it's just, as I said, test piece. So we'll get everything in some sort of cohesion. I'm using a very old paintbrush that came from the UK with me, so I'm not too worried about getting it on anything. However, I do recommend having some sort of pot or something to put said brush in so you don't get it on the rest of your model. Next, we're going to place our foam board within the contours of said baseboard and push it down. Now, because I'm using two very nice books for my modelling, I have a sheet of plastic here. First off, we have the entire Chronicles of Narnia, and on this side we have The Wind in the Willows, as well as, just for good measure, give it that little bit extra oomph, GWR Switch and Crossing Practice, a design guide for 4mm modelers. So I'm going to leave this down for a good few hours and just see how it comes out. Once that's done, then I can go along with some sandpaper and neaten up the edges, and we should be away. So I'll see you in a little while. So I am back, and this time I'm behind the camera so I can show you guys what I'm going to be doing with the test board, and then this will directly translate to areas of the layout. So the idea is to have two different tiers of track work. According to the map of the location of the quarry, the track itself was on a slight embankment around above the surrounding area. Even though there was a hill that was gradually working its way down here, that hill was eaten away by the quarry, which allows me to have the flat surface on one side. On this side, however, after a small, I would say, lip, so again, after the track work, it bends down very slightly, is the River Avon, and then moving further in towards some more hills. So the idea for this is that, imagining that this is the center of the baseboard, we will have our yard, our main running line on an embankment, which is on another strip of 5mm foam, which already brings it up over the yard siding track work. Then our 3mm foam, which is here represented by some cork, and then our hand-laid branch track on top of it, giving it a good lift, and then when it's all ballasted and everything, it should provide a solid set of embankment. And then what I will do is, on the other side, I will represent a very slight downward hill, very, very slightly, like it's just a few millimeters, as you can see. It might bump very slightly, but then I will cover it in trees and foliage and stuff anyway. So you wouldn't be, the point is you wouldn't be able to see the river behind. As looking at Google Earth, Google Images, and maps and things like that, it was pretty overgrown by at this point anyway, and full of trees anyway. So I will use that to the best of my ability and cover the area with trees and foliage as a background. That way I don't have to worry so much about the height difference of the actual baseboard, because if I was going to be doing the River Avon, I would have had it a bit thicker, and honestly I would have had a wider baseboard. So the river will not be modelled in this situation. However, it means that I will not be doing a cutting as such, but I will be doing a slight hill all the way down here. So there will still be something. It might be a little overpronounced for what you would actually see, but there will be something there. But it will be covered with trees and shrubs and stuff like that anyway. So that's how this is going to work. The glue, getting back to the actual test piece, the glue has settled quite well. It does take a little bit of force if I want to try and pull it up, so that I'm quite happy with. The next task is to take a pin drill and do some pilot holes for wiring and things like that, and see how easy that is to come by, because for the yard line, it will be, for the sidings, it will be fine because it's just pin through here, drill through the bottom, but here it's a little bit tougher. I've got 2 layers of foam to go through and so on. And I seem to have caught onto my rail with a magnetic screwdriver. Interesting. So, all fun and games, all stop and go. Yeah, with that I will move back to the desk and talk to you in a second. So, after the successful test piece was done, I've now put down the glue for the first bit of the left-hand baseboard. And I'm using books, tools, toolboxes, everything to keep it down. So I'll come back in another hour or two just to make sure that that's okay, and then do the back pieces. Once all of that one is done completely, then I will move on to the centerboard, get that finished, and then move on to the end board. I won't record the rest of this. I will come back when the rest of it is done, and we will call it a day. Okay, take 2. I've just recorded this and literally had no audio for the entire thing. So we're gonna start again. So if you're still here in the video, thank you very much. Yeah, I do ramble on a bit, so it will get better, I promise. I'm gonna actually start doing scripted bits so that I know what I'm saying when I'm on the camera. But yeah, for the time being, it's gonna be very, very and Ari and and so on. But at least it tells you that I'm sort of excited about this. So I've moved the layout as per the next section. Spoiler alert, I'm moving the layout. But I thought I would show you guys the layout itself. So as you can see on the screen right now, I'm using a program called Templar, and I won't go into depth with it because there are much better people that can explain it, but I will leave a link down in the description to where you can get it and to the Templar forums themselves. There is so much information there about creating your own templates, using those templates to create your own layout, like I have and how I'm continuing to do. Some realistic aspects. There's so much going on right now. Anyway, so my basic layout is a branch line from Brent Junction, which is on the Great Western Railway, Newton Abbot to Plymouth section of the London to Penzance main line. Then it after leaving the junction, you have 4 different stations. He's trying to remember the names of the stations now. I should have these written down. This is what: Avonwick, Gara Bridge, Loddiswell, and Kingsbridge. those are the Kingsbridge is the terminus. So those are the 4 stations that are on this branch line, and I will be doing each of them in turn after this layout. So the idea is I would like to get the track work completed, the track work and the electronics for this layout completed before the end of the year. And that includes the sensors for each of the different sections, the turnouts and their frogs, the basic bus wiring and so on, all of that, and having it up and running without scenics. If I can get scenics done, at least started before the end of the year, I will be happy. But the aim is to have all of the track work hand-built and all of the electronics hand-built, fully tested and ready for automation by the end of 2023 for this section. And then in between that, I will be designing the rest of them, so then it means that by the time I finish at the end of 2023 this year, I should be in a position to start the baseboards for the next build. But I'm rambling on and I'm getting ahead of myself. So this is a section of the branch line between the first and the second station, between Avonwick and Gara Bridge, and it's an old disused quarry called Oakenham Quarry. Let me pull up the real map itself. As you can see here, you have different ways of picking up shapes and so on. So this is a real map taken from National Library of Scotland. This is copyrighted, so technically I probably shouldn't be showing this to you, but I will put a copyright mention in the description below. But the idea is that I take the maps, and it allows me to get a actual basic track plan / diagram of the area that I am modeling. So as you can see here, I've got a shape outline of my baseboards, and I have taken the main branch line itself, and I have created that as if it was following the original embankment. And then I have created this is a previous version, but then I have added what could be there. I have added there. Now, this is showing that the pit starts very, very soon and that it wouldn't have extended very far. I'm retconning this, that it has swamped out this way, but they went a bit further this way as well. Like, not so bad, but they went further this way as well. So, because this is technically this is a hill. So anyway, the idea is that there's the main branch. I have added my turnout, and that will lead to the yard, which has since moved a little bit closer, very, very slightly closer. Then there will be the kickback for the coal merchants, the 2 sidings here, one coming off this way, one coming off slightly further, and then the 2 lines this side with the building complex on the end. So this just gives you a basic rough idea of how I've gone about and related it to the real world. So if I go back to the actual brickwork, the actual layout itself, so let me add the proper shapes. See, this is the lovely thing that you can do with Template, is you can add shapes and things. So there we have the branch. I have straightened it on both sides to allow complete horizontal or vertical, or whichever way, flat entrances for 2 fiddle yards. Basically, it will just be 2 long sections of double track on a piece of wood that will be attached to either side of this layout when I'm in running mode. and then they can be taken off for storage mode. Then the little road will come underneath here, will come underneath this bit, through past the field and into what will essentially be the yard. There will be a slight fenced off section here where the dirt path will follow around as it does around the field, and then there will be the entrance to the yard itself with a crossing over this section between the two sets of turnouts. The coal merchant will be up here with a little bit of a lip, so to speak. Then the embankment will be this side, so this will come in here to some sort of parking area for workers and the like, with a warehouse which could potentially be added onto another small fiddle, some older buildings, a new warehouse and a new factory, and then some random pieces of quarry equipment will be around, and so on. You have your main siding and a secondary / relief siding, so depending on what shipments are coming in that day or going out that day or whatever, there's plenty of room for them to be offloaded on either side. Then there will be these two additional sidings. Originally they would have led into the quarry where hoppers would have been to distribute the rock into wagons, or indeed at this point it probably would have been hand put into carts or horse drawn or so on and so forth. But the idea is that these two would represent going deeper into the quarry. And the idea is that I will block these off with some warning signs, some old rusted warning signs and so on and so forth, dictating that it was a mine and you should not enter, and there will be some fencing and so on, just to give a little bit more interest. But then everything at the back here and probably around this area here will be wooded with lots of trees and so on up to a certain point. Then it will be move into open field and allow me to get a mix of quite a lot, as it were, for modelling. So the only thing I think is missing from this is rock faces, sandy beaches and water. I've got a bridge, I've got muddy roads, I've got a little bit of concrete road, or cobbled road, not cobbled road, but stony road. So yeah, lots to do. But yeah, so as I said, the idea is to get the basic track work done before the end of the year. I've got some cardboard cutouts already for these buildings, so that I can basically measure everything up and make sure everything is scalable, is in the right place. I can put some bullhead track down, take some measurements to make sure that how many wagons are fitting in, how many wagons and with the locomotives and so on are fitting in, and basically do some testing before I start gluing stuff down, other than the 5mm foam. So yeah, lots to do moving forward. I'm hoping by the end of February to have the track templates cut out and pinned down in their rightful places, having all of the buildings and everything set up in their rightful places, and then having this additional bit of foam board for the last board, as it will be slightly lower than the others, to accommodate for the bridge on the end of the seam. And that's my goal for February. So if I can get that done, great, and we'll have a good update for moving forward. So yeah, lots to do, lots to get on. So I'm looking forward to it. For those that might be interested, I'm going off the principle that the quarry would have potentially had its own locomotive, either borrowed from the Great Western Railway of the time or specifically purchased some sort of industrial locomotive. So there will be one of these two lines will probably have some sort of refueling or recoaling or rewatering facility, maybe even a lean-to or something, you know, just with a little hut or something for drivers to prep themselves in. One, just to have a little bit of added detail, but two, because it's quite possible that the quarry as a whole could have, you know, it's very, very possible. Considering the amount of traffic that will be going in and out, there'll be brick wagons going out, coke wagons coming in, coal wagons coming in for the furnace, and so on. And the idea is that this is not just the whole complex. This is just where everything is redistributed. This warehouse here would link on to other buildings that are slightly behind it, or another building complex that will be off on this direction. So that's the idea, and it will be signposted and so on accordingly, so it will give that aesthetic. But the idea is that this area is much larger, this factory is larger than it's being portrayed as. So the likely candidate will be my 1366 class pannier tank locomotive. Smallest pannier I've ever seen. It's so cute. Either that or a 1361 saddle tank, or some Rustons, or whatever industrials I end up procuring along the way. But as for the main branch, there will be everything from prairies up to kings. I will run a king down the branch line if I have a king, just because it will be funny to look at. But the main traffic would have been panniers, the 48 XX class, and probably there weren't likely to be many tender locomotives coming down this branch. I haven't really seen any. It's been mostly prairies and then bubble cars and DMUs, so we'll see. But I will run anything. I will run anything on this branch. I have seen pictures of sizable goods trains. Sometimes there have been 4 or 5 suburban coaches on the line as well, so there's lots of playability that will be for the branch line itself. But there we go. Anyway, I'm rambling on. So this is the current idea for the layout, and I want to have the track work and everything done by 2023. So now I'm going to show you that I'm moving this, which is a spoiler alert again, because I've already said it, so I might as well say it again. But I will speak to you when I'm stood up. As you can see, this is not very organised. So the last thing for me to do as part of the update is to move the layout from that side of the room to where this desk is, giving me a little bit more space. I can move my new storage unit into a better position, and we can go from there. So with the power of editing and time, I'll see you in a minute. So, apologies for this image quality. I had recorded this on my phone on the tripod, as with the last set of frames. However, in post-production, I realised how much of a boo-boo I had, and I was like this the entire time, just like bobbing in and out, and it just didn't look good. So, I have moved, he's doing it again, I've moved the layout here into the corner where my desk was, and I have moved the storage underneath to the same place. And as you can see, I've started doing stuff already. I'm currently working on the electronics, just making sure that everything from the old PC power supply works. Check out there's a Ron's Trains and Things video where he goes through using one of these, and I had to try that because I had a spare piece lying around. So yeah, the idea is that the embankment will start on this side and will work its way forward. This board will stay lower, and I will make up the landform with some foam and then cut that foam accordingly so that the actual running line stays relatively flat compared. It might be that I only do that for, in fact, it's probably not a good idea for me to do it for the entire thing, but just for the section where the track work is. So the track work appears level, but you can clearly see the embankment and so on. But anyway, this will stay lower. Other than that, I think there's not really much else to update. I've got a lot to do over the next year. I should have my plywood arriving soon for sleepers. I need to get some copper clad, and I need to do an order for some etched brass turnout chairs. So for now, it's going to take a while, but I'm heading in the right direction. I'm enjoying the research. I'm enjoying watching videos from other people, getting a lot of inspiration from that, and I'm just so eager to get stuff started and get track work down. So I want to thank you guys for sticking around for the last half an hour or so. It's it's a long video. I'm going to recommend that each of these monthly updates you grab a cup of tea or a coffee or a beer or something, because I will probably have one around. I've got a beer on the desk right now. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. If you like the video, please like it. Any comments about anything in the video or about the layout, the baseboards, me, anything, leave it in the comment section below, and I will do my best to respond to each and every one of them. And subscribe for the rest of the updates. The next one will hopefully be at the end of February, but looking at this video and how 2023 has been going, it might be the first week or so of March, but we will see. So thank you very much again, and I will talk to you in the next one. Take care and happy modeling.